This is such a fascinating instrument. I say this because I also play a few instruments. That way, without a Mridangam, there's no Carnatic concert. Parani Subramania Pillai is my idol. Like, my Mridangam idol is Parani Subramania Pillai. And if someone's selling biryani, like biryani, and then that's the pitch they'll be selling it that entire day. And then if someone's selling the water bottle, then it's like in a different note, and then it'll just be in that note. And then you have the ta-na-na, and then the railway announcement happens. So there's just so much of harmony that's happening there, and this is the love of my life.
Hello and welcome to Notes and Chords, the Hindu series on appreciating music. Through conversations with seasoned artists as well as young practitioners, we try and decode both form and technique to better appreciate music that we love listening to. Over the last few episodes, we've had a chance to speak to a range of artists, including senior guitarists, a Nagaswaram exponent, a young vocalist, and so on, just to understand more about the work they do and how they present their particular form of music and what goes into it by way of labor and practice. Today we're very happy to have with us a dynamic and thoughtful artist, the first percussive artist that we're meeting in this series. We have Praveen Sparsh with us. Hello Praveen.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure to have you and thank you for joining us. Praveen is a multi-percussionist and a music producer who belongs to a highly respected lineage in percussive art. He is the grandson of Mridangam maestro Thanjavur Upendran and the great-grandson of Thavil exponent Valangaiman Shanmugasundaram Pillai. Praveen started his Mridangam lessons when he was barely 5 with Nellai Balaji and later continued with senior exponent Guruvayur Durai. With decades of training and performance, Praveen is now a much sought after artist on the Carnatic music stage. He's accompanied many senior artists including Aruna Sairam, T.M. Krishna, Bombay Jayashree, S. Soumya, and so on. He has extensively toured the world, performing across the United States, Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, Israel, and Palestine. A few years ago, Praveen released a solo percussion album called Unreserved, a noted creative effort centered on the Mridangam and responding to sounds of everyday life through varied rhythmscapes. As a music producer, Praveen has scored and performed music for plays, jingles, films, and along with his partner, violinist Shreya Devnath, he plays for various bands and ensembles, including the Carnatic Quartet, the Blue Trio, and Band Cooum. Delighted to meet you, Praveen.
Same here.
Yeah. So, Praveen, your core training is in playing the Mridangam. So, for our audience, including those who may not be all that familiar with the instrument, could you tell us a little about the instrument itself?
This is such a fascinating instrument, and I say this because I also play a few instruments, and this is the love of my life. Because I feel, just in terms, because I'm also passionate about sound, if you just take the sonic aspect of this instrument, it is quite vast in what it can do, starting from the higher frequencies to the lower frequencies. So you feel like you're having your own jam. It's like playing with a band. So when the high frequencies just keep playing, so this is, you have two heads. Of course, it's a percussion instrument and it has two heads. And I'm a right-handed mridangam player, so my right hand is the dominant hand that has the higher frequency. So sounds like that. And then my left hand plays the lower frequencies, which is like. So what happens is my right hand and left hand are kind of jamming together, and that feels like a band. So it is like unbelievably empowering. Of course, it's predominantly used in Carnatic music as a percussive support or an accompanying instrument in a Carnatic context. But I feel this instrument just has tremendous potential to speak so many different languages and to have so many different musical conversations, which is what I'm trying to do in my own body of work. So that's the Mridangam. It's just gorgeous.
No, that's a lovely explanation. Really found your description that it's like jamming with yourself
Yeah.
and you get to do many things with the same instrument and almost have a conversation with different sounds emanating from the same instrument. Thank you for that. That was really interesting. Praveen, one thing I've noticed is, usually Mridangam artists, their Mridangam is in the conventional brown color, or they've wrapped it up or covered it in some nice fabric. But yours, there's a splash of color, there's some paint on it. So, what's the story?
Okay, so it all started when we were shooting for Unreserved. So Unreserved is the name of the album, and we made one music video, which is called Savari. It's on YouTube. So this
Savari as in
the
ride.
Savari, actual ride,
Okay,
and it is based on the sounds from the share auto,
right.
which is actually around 157 BPM. It just keeps going like that.
Okay.
That's where the genesis of that track, that's where it happened. Then we were sitting and writing the video idea. What's the story and why do we make this video? And then we came up with the story, which basically goes like a middle class Chennai boy goes for his first job interview, and he takes a share auto, and then he basically is inside the share auto with like 4 or 5 other people, and then that moment is just frozen in his head, and then he goes into some trance or something, and then the entire track where you have trombones and trumpets and bass guitar and everything else happens in his dream world.
Okay.
And then that track ends, and then he goes to the job interview. This is the story. Now, since this entire thing happens in his dream world, the visual treatment will also be slightly different. And I wanted the Mridangam, which is kind of the hero of this track, to have the same sonic presence but look different. So, easiest way is just like splash some colors on it.
Okay.
So, I just spoke to my friend Susha just 2 days before the shoot. I had this idea. She's a very dear friend, and we have worked on so many projects together. I said, bro, I just need some colors on my Mridangam. This is the idea that I have. And she was just such a sport. Even for this paint to dry, it took so much time, but she just worked on this. This is the first Mridangam. At that point, it was not named. It was just
Okay.
a Mridangam that happens in that person's dream world.
Right.
Once that was done, it was just this one Mridangam. But even when I take this Mridangam to concerts, I used to cover it up with the fabric or something so that no one will see it. Because I was very
Okay.
conscious of, because it was not done. But at one point, it was, I think, Shreya and I were touring the UK and a concert in Glastonbury, where I just said, let's just remove and play it because it's so beautiful. I feel like you're also like covering this and like it's not fair. And that concert, so many people came and spoke to me about how they really resonated with the, the visual aspect of it. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And at that point, this Mridangam was named Lawrence,
Okay.
who's my Mridangam maker and a very special person in my musical journey. And usually, when you see artist bios, there are certain names that are not part of the bios. Usually, it's the
Right.
guru and all people involved in your musical journey. So I decided, I wrote down people who are very important to my musical
Okay.
journey, and I said each Mridangam will be named after them.
Right.
So the first Mridangam, this is Lawrence. The second one is actually our sound engineer.
Okay.
His name is Prakash, and he runs this company called Shakti Audio.
Right.
So the second Mridangam is called Shakti.
Okay.
And the third Mridangam is a very close friend, like childhood friend, Shruti Sagar, who's
Right.
this phenomenal flautist. It's only because of him that I listen to music a lot and
Okay.
practiced with him hours together. And I mean, like, he's not part of my bio, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
yeah.
was like, okay, his name has to be like there in this
That's
thing.
a lovely way of crediting people who've contributed to your.
Yeah. So from that point, I have so many people to thank. So
Right.
I'm happy to collect instruments and also record my thanks.
So Mr. Lawrence now gets to repair or touch up this instrument that's named after him, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, he also knows that.
Right, right. And
So-
where is Mr. Lawrence now?
His shop is right next to Vivekananda College
Okay.
in Mylapore. And yeah, he has literally made all my Mridangams, and yeah, he's been there for me all times. Like
Okay.
the most reliable person in my life, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what we see in the last few years is also a little more attention to people who make this instrument, and this entails a lot of hard work and a very, very, specific process that goes into, making this for particular sounds. And I think we're talking more about this and hearing more about this, especially after T.M. Krishna wrote Sebastian and Sons, and we also had a few popular culture references like in Sarvam Talamayam. So, what's your interaction with, makers of the instrument, and can you tell us about that?
Literally every mridangam that I have about 16 or 17, and mridangam maintenance is quite. It's just a process where we kind of visit Lawrence Anna every week
Okay.
because it requires some kind of maintenance because weather plays a role and too many things. Going back to the subject of how complex it is to make an instrument, it is strenuous and it's so nuanced at the same time, which is a very rare combination, right? So one side of it is to source the hide and to really like season the hide and to have sunlight, the proper amount, the right amount of sunlight, and the process that goes behind that, which is very strenuous and hard labor. And then I basically ask Lawrence Anna to make a mridangam in G Shruti, which is
Okay.
basically a particular pitch. And that's a requirement that I have. And at the end of it, he has to stretch this hide and use a particular wooden chamber and has this nut and bolt mechanism. Earlier, it was also hide ropes basically holding these two heads together to get to that right pitch, which is very nuanced work because it's like tuning. It's like tuning a piano or like any other instrument. And I find that deeply fascinating that someone can actually see this instrument and they make this every day.
Right.
I think they're superheroes. According to me, they're just phenomenal. And yes, there is more dialogue. I think that book definitely spoke about the makers a lot, and we all spoke about the makers a lot because of that book as well. And there are also sabas for honoring them. Like you said, there are mainstream references, which is all great because I think we need to speak about the art of mridangam making much more. And not to say that we've never spoken about it or get into any of that, but we just have to speak more. And there's just so much scope to do workshops, to do master classes, to just understand that because that way, without a mridangam, there's no Carnatic concert. So it's such an integral part of the Carnatic ecosystem that the level of engagement can be a lot more, is what I
Right.
feel.
Right. No, as you say, the Mridangam is so integral to the Carnatic stage, and you can't imagine a concert without the sound of the Mridangam. But for a lot of us, coming into a Carnatic music, especially some who might for the first time be at a concert, how would you describe the role of a Mridangist? What does he or she typically do on stage? Because there are different kinds of presentations involved, right? Like set pieces, then swarams, and then the mridangist plays core-wise after every segment, and then you have a separate tanya vartanam. So, what, in your view, is the role of a mridangist?
Right. I think basically the Carnatic context is so very exciting, and I'll also explain why. Because there is the right proportion of rehearsed music, which is the compositional form, and even there, as a mridangam artist, we don't exactly play the same way. Though we do have an idea bank, like every artist will have an idea bank, but it totally depends on the artists with whom we are collaborating and that artist's mental mindset and their musicality, and we're responding to that real time. And there's also the improvisation part, right? So it is really exciting because you get to also exhibit what you've rehearsed, which is very satisfying because you've worked so hard at home and you also get to do that. But there are also moments of vulnerability where you're trying to respond real time and there is a chance where you might slip and fall, and then how do you troubleshoot from that is very exciting, which is why Carnatic concerts, like I think, yeah, like I'm sounding old now, but I think I started my first concert on stage with a mridangam and with two singers was when I was 8 years old, and now I'm like 33. So it's been like so many years, but even now I'm super excited to just get on stage and play a concert because there are just so many variables, and those variables create more context and more possibilities for you to like evolve as an artist. So I always look forward to a Carnatic concert. Going to the role of the mridangam artist in a Carnatic concert, I think there are two or three things that you need to do. I've been reading this book by Lalita Ram, which is
Right.
Dhruva Nakshatram. Parani Subramanya Pillai is my idol. Like my mridangam idol is Parani Subramanya Pillai, and there's a quote which says, Maduramani Iyer says Parni is a Tyagi. And he says that in a context of, as percussionists, the way we practice is quite rigorous and we have a certain way of practicing.
Right.
But you don't show all of it in a particular song. That's when you get into that restrained zone. And then when the opportunity is just correct for you, the context is correct for you, you need to be firing at that point. So it's a combination of being super prepared but to have that restraint. I think that is quite revealing, and my guru Guruvair Durai sir is also someone who's told me this in very different contexts, very different words. In fact, more than saying it, he has just demonstrated that. So I think that's one thing, like to be like super thorough with your practice and your skill and craft, but to exercise restraint when it comes to the compositional form, because you're just seeing the same thing through a different lens, right? The singer is seeing the same composition from one dimension, and then you're doing it from a different dimension. At the end of it, it should make some aesthetic sense.
Right.
And I think that's what we do when it comes to a compositional form, where the composition is the most important thing, more than me or the singer. When it comes to improvisation, I think that's where it gets into different people's musicalities and personalities and stuff like that, which is the most exciting part, because that there you have more variables. If someone wants to be really excited, go into a lot of math, then you should be prepared for that. If someone wants to just, it's a rainy day, let me just go do some sarvalagu or just groove along a little bit, then you need to be also ready to do that, because that requires a different kind of wiring. So I think that is the place where you are inspired and you also inspire what you can actually bring to the table for you to create that musical moment. So I think it's a combination of both, where you practice restraint, you practice your craft very hard, and then take that composition, do your value addition in your own way, and then take that composition to a next level. The other side is where the improvised music, you create that vulnerable environment for all musicians to come and create something.
Right.
So I think maybe from where I am in life right now, this seems like a balance that I'm working on.
Okay. No, that's fascinating. The difference between, coming in with some prepared ideas, which over time you would have mastered, but bringing it very specially curated for the audience, but also being present and really ready that moment to offer something from your kitty, but not necessarily, planned before. Is it possible, Praveen, for you to illustrate a few examples of how you might play for a composition versus an improvisational?
To play for a composition, it'll be better if I have someone to do.
Okay.
What I can do is to show a few places, like maybe three contexts. One is where I'm grooving,
Okay.
and we are all waiting for that moment, but it's just grooving. That it's kind of a stillness that you create when it comes to like creating a mood. Another one is where I'm grooving, but I'm going to a slightly more discrete ideas where we kind of exchange. So I'm kind of imagining that someone's singing. And the other place is where I play something that I've rehearsed and like do, that you usually play in a concert.
Right.
So I'll just start with kind of imagining an improvisational section in a Carnatic context, probably like a Kalpanaswaram or a Neraval, where I start with a more Sarvalagu approach, where I'm just grooving.
Okay.
And in fact, even again, I want to go back to that book, and then how he talks about how important it is to groove along, and then how we take that for
Parni
granted.
Subramaniam Pillai.
Yeah, through not exactly through his words, but it's stressed
Right.
how important it is to groove through Semmangudi Mama's music and then Maduramani Iyer's music. There's so many references, and then when I read that, I'm able to feel why it's so important to do that.
Right.
So I'll start with that, and then probably get into a slightly more discrete approach. I'll break, and then that'll be section 2. And then the third section, from there I will just go into a slightly solo-ish space.
Okay.
way of playing. So this is kind of a solo space.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
So it's also very clear as to how I'm just talking about my musical legacy and the
Sure.
ideology behind why we do certain things. When you hear my guru or Parani sir play, they very clearly not use certain things when it comes to the first example that I showed.
Right.
Or there's very clearly a second section. So I'm just showing you three sections. Obviously, you can write obviously a book about it, about the musical ideology. But that integrity in musical choice is what makes it very special. You create certain boundaries, and then even when you want to improvise or when you want to create something, then you do it in that one box, which makes it both exciting and also a clear palette. So you're creating a palette of emotions in a Carnatic concert,
Right.
rather than just throwing in stuff here and there, which is why I think it's the more I grow in this, I feel there's just more scope to improve and to grow in that direction.
Sure. And also set a certain kind of idea or ideology for yourself, as
Yes.
you just explained. So, Praveen, just listening to you play and so beautifully, it seems like Mridangam playing is so much about mathematics. You have a time frame or a talam within which you're trying to fit syllables in certain permutations and combinations. What you're also doing is playing with sound, like you're using different parts of the instrument to bring out different sounds, and also playing with silence, right? You're not playing all the time, you're taking breaks and there are pauses. So these choices, I suppose, is also what you're talking about, and that brings about a certain aesthetic.
Yes.
And I suppose that's also why we celebrate different styles of music, like the Palkat Mani Iyer school or the Parni Subramaniam Pillai school of playing. So how would you describe yours? I can see that you're very, very influenced by the Parni school and style, but as you said, you're thinking through these choices every day, especially as a practitioner today.
Right.
So how would you describe your style in terms of, is it math heavy? Is it, a lot about silences or a combination? What's your style?
I don't know if I can call myself a style yet, because I'm
Okay.
pretty young. When it comes to a Carnatic style creation journey, I'm pretty young. So, but I do have a vision board, I can say.
Right.
And basically, whatever we do in Mridangam, when it comes to such an intricate form like this that has a lot of history and also kind of recorded in a very organic way, it's very hard to say you're creating a style. You're borrowing ideas, all over. And the reason why I talk about Parani sir so much is because of my musical lineage and my musical upbringing. But I've picked so much from Palgat Maniyar sir as well, because if any Mridangam artist cannot evolve without listening to these
Of
great
course.
masters. And you can't basically also compare their artistry as well, because they're just like giants in their own way. So even what I played in section 2 a little bit, even in this small section, I have like influences from Palgat Maniyar sir as well. So I would say my vision board, if I don't have to pick names and say this is what I do, my vision board is to be a brilliant collaborator, because I really enjoy doing that,
Right.
making music with another musician. Um, is to basically say, if I'm like happy making music with another musician and I'm able to create that happiness for that musician as well, and then we're able to create something together, that is definitely point one. Point two is to keep working on my craft and to kind of keep expanding what I can do with this instrument, and stuff like that, and to of course appreciate silences, and that is, I think, part of creating your aesthetic, because how aesthetics is also subjective, right?
Indeed.
And then it's just certain things that kind of resonate with you, and then you pick those things. So for example, if I have to play a slightly longish percussive idea, then I need a breather. My musical mind needs a breather, right? And that was also kind of told to me by my guru. Like, once you play a korve, just leave three aksharams. Don't just keep rushing.
Right.
Is something that he has told me. So that has stayed with me. So things like that. I think all of this kind of is on my vision board. I try to have a good mix of math, and Sarvalagu is something that I really enjoy, because sometimes it's considered monotonous when you just do that. But I truly enjoy it in the right proportion,
Right.
and I feel it's very important. I've also written about it on my Instagram page, about how sometimes even playing Sarvalagu is almost mocked in like a very serious Carnatic context.
Right.
It's not considered very serious because you're just grooving. But there's just so much that goes behind why you're doing that.
Yeah.
It's not like you sat in a room and you started playing this. Sometimes it's for a Neravel, and then there's music happening there, and sometimes it's amazing to take the back seat and just let something else glow.
Right.
And then when you're given the spotlight, that's when you need to really like fire. There's no point in keeping on like firing, and then also the limelight will also lose that
Yeah.
context.
Yeah.
So I think all of this is kind of on my vision board of music at the moment.
Right, right. In the first Sarvalagu segment that you played, you're showing a lot of variation in sound itself, even if not in mathematical calculation. And these are all considered artistic choices, even the way you said that there are moments you would like to take a back seat, allow the musician, the vocalist or the instrumentalist project their music, and then you come in at an opportune moment and allow your skill to shine. So before you get to a point where you're able to make these choices in some informed, considered way, I think there are a lot of skills that go into being able to play like this, right? So I also see that you're training young students in the Mridangam. So how do you look at these skills if you're breaking them down for young students, and what aspects do you focus on?
Right. So I don't do group sessions. I think each person's musical journey is so unique, and I would like to respect that. So I don't have a blanket advice is like whatever word. I don't even have a blanket rule book for my students.
Right.
Some students are, say, physically they feel they want to exert and be aggressive. I will ask them to practice restraint. Some students need a little bit of rigor in their practice. I will
Right.
say, go please play your instrument harder. This is not the time to be soft, and in your practice room, no, you can't be soft. So I think I have a different rule book for different students.
Right.
When I listen to something, I feel, especially when I listen to the great masters, because my reference goes back to, say, my guru or Shankaran sir or all those legends. There's just so much proportion in the way you process things, and there's maturity in musical choice, and that comes with, obviously they would have also gone through their journey, but that's where we need to also go, and we are also listening to their contemporaries, and of course that will kind of seep into your musicality a little bit, but then how do you make these choices work is something that I keep. I have these conversations with my students, and I also ask them to go and listen to other musicians so that they get context. And you need to kind of understand where you are in the musical world,
Right.
though your journey is kind of alone, and you have to work on your craft and all of that. But you need to understand the moment you're saying you're going to perform, then it is with others, right? Then you need to understand where you are. So that's kind of something I tell them. So obviously you need to work on your craft, your sound and your fingers and your wrist, a very cerebral way of handling music. You need to be ready, which requires actually some amount of fitness. That's also something that I've been telling even my young students to stretch, do yoga,
Right.
do some breathing, eat clean, sleep, all of those things, which I wish I had that advice in my 20s. I think there's just more awareness when it comes to such things right now. So I just, at the cost of sounding old, I tell them, no, please, eat well and like exercise more than eating well. I
Yeah.
think when you're young, it's fine. But you need to exercise. You need to have some routine. I don't care if it's yoga or gym or whatever. Uh, so starting from that, I think my students are more like family, where I take interest and tell them if they're lacking in something. If I find them lacking in something, I just nudge them in that direction. For some students, it's just like they'll be super sincere with their lessons, practice and come, but they won't listen to concerts at all.
Right.
And there's no point. There's just like you can't do anything without listening to live concerts. So I will sometimes get angry saying there's no point in just like just showing what you've practiced and coming here. Your musical learning should be multidimensional. Only then you will get somewhere. So sometimes it's that kind of um, thoughts that I share with them.
Right. So, Praveen, you are an artist who's constantly trying to expand the ambit of your percussive art, right? You're playing Carnatic concerts, you're composing, but you're also experimenting with sounds, instruments. You're playing with very diverse set of artists, also through your different, collaborations like a Carnatic Quartet, then the Blue Trio, the Band Cooum, and so on. So, one is, what does this process do to you as an artist, and does it also involve playing different styles when you're collaborating with these different set of artists, or are you taking your Mridangam playing skills and offering that? So what is this process like?
I've also had an interesting journey. There's just one story that I would like to share.
Absolutely.
So until when I was 15, so that 8, or rather starting from 5 to 15, 10 years, I didn't know who A.R. Rahman was, or I didn't
Okay.
know who Ilayaraja sir was.
Right.
My only exposure was GNB, Semmangudi, Madhurmani Air, and Parni sir, and all of these people, which is a blessing. And it was not forced. It was not like my parents forced me to listen to music. I just was so indulgent in listening to Carnatic music, and I don't know. I just thank my stars for that kind of an environment, I think. So what happened when I was 15 was, so there used to be this person called Mr. Suresh in our
Okay.
school, and he used to play the tabla, and he basically put a band together, and I studied in Chettinad Ashram,
Okay.
and Chettinad Ashram is known for its light music band,
Right.
because we had the great flautist Shruti Sagar, Saindavi singer was there, and then
GV Prakash is
GV
also
Prakash
there.
was there. GV is like senior to me, so I've never played with him.
Okay.
Once I've played with him. Vikram Sarathi is the
Right.
keyboardist of Staccato now.
Okay.
So it was a musically active community that existed. And then Mr. Suresh saw me as this Mridangam playing boy, and he just
Right.
said, "You're doing really well. Just come to the jam room tomorrow. You're playing the rhythm pad." I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
So I went there, and he gave me sticks. I've never touched sticks in my life, and all I knew was Mridangam. He said start playing, and then it required a very different kind of brain wiring, and I was just thrown, because it was a very simple groove like dum ta dum ta dim. But this constant left hand and the right hand moving this way is
Yeah.
very unnatural. I mean, like, I've practiced this now, so I know how this works. So I said, no, I don't think this will work, and also my guru won't allow me to do this. It's kind of a shield that I use just to
Right.
not be there. Then he said, who do you learn from? I said, Guru Ayurdarai sir. Okay, I'll see you at his place. Then he showed up the next day when I had class with sir, and he spoke to my guru with me in the room. He says he might be confused if he plays, rhythm pad. Do you think so? He said, not at all.
Right.
I think it's a skill that you should learn. You're young and you need to, it's rhythm at the end of the day. So I think you should do that. There ended the story, and I think there
Okay.
ended all my things of, okay, maybe I should not get into fusion or
Right.
whatever it is. From there, it's been learning, it's been some amount of unlearning, some amount of being aware of context,
Right.
and to just be in a room where you don't have a usual partner. When Naraval happens, you know what you should do, but what should you do when a chorus of a song, Ilayaraja song happens, you don't know actually, right? So I think from there, I've had, I don't know, I was too lucky to collaborate with the best of contemporary artists in Chennai, like starting from Sean Roldan or Pradeep Kumar or Susha. These are all like artists who are kind of pioneers in like independent music and original music scene in Chennai.
Sure.
And maybe it's because of the inclination that I had that I started listening to world music a lot at that point. So from GNB, Madhura Manier on one side, then it became Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, and Pat Metheny, and Richard Bona and Beatles, and all of those things on the other side. And again, it was just fascinating. So it moved to that. To go back to your question as to what my role is when I play in a certain band, I think there also it differs.
Right.
Imagine I'm being called as a featuring artist in a band that already has a genre defined, and I'm being featured for my Mridangam skills. Then I go there and I don't do anything. I don't try to like play a drum groove on the Mridangam. There I'll go and play a korvai or like an abhiprayam and then get off stage. But if I'm creating a genre with someone where there's like proper genre creation, where you put like four kind of different musicians in a room and you're trying to figure out the role of a mridangam, then I will experiment with just playing the right head or processing the right head through the technology that I have, or use the left head alone, or play another instrument with my left hand and play the mridangam right head. All of those things usually happens when it comes to genre creation, where the musical situation demands that. So when it comes to say Band Cooum, which is a very difficult band to rehearse and to even make music, because we play only original music.
Okay.
So we don't have existing repertoire, and musicians literally come from very different backgrounds. So we have Parai Isai, we have Mridangam, and then we have original English music with the guitars. No connection whatsoever. So to create even like two bars of music, you need to ask why, right? So you can't just, hey, this feels nice. Then you're asking, okay, if we are doing this, something that's so drastic and different, then the reason has to be like really strong. Whereas if you put like say even a keyboard and a mridangam together, it's slightly more cohesive.
Right.
People are more used to that sound. But parai and mridangam are just two kind of extremities when it comes to ideas and even societally how they're placed. It's like
Yes.
it's very different. So I think each band we do have a vision board, and we kind of sit and ask ourselves why we have this band. So ACQ is again how Nadaswaram and Thavil is almost like a subgenre in Carnatic music, whereas voice, violin, mridangam is a group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we've always wondered, why should this be? We're playing the same music.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we can learn from each other. Um, because we've created such unique musical idea banks that some amount of sharing, of course, we shouldn't like become like mirrors, because that will kind of, there's a reason why ideas exist in a certain way. But if you can share ideas that can inspire you to create something, then that's very important musical dialogue. So I also did my engineering and worked for a bit. So when I
Okay.
quit my work, there's only one thing that I said: I want my musical journey to be exciting for me. If it doesn't work out, I'll just go find another job. But I don't want to be a safe musician just to figure out something, and like that I was not interested. So
Right.
all these bands that I'm a part of are slightly experimental,
Unconventional.
unconventional, ready to fail, because I think that's so important. Like
And it's liberating, no, artistically.
it is liberating. It's also exhausting.
Yeah.
To talk about also the not so shiny side of things.
course.
It's very exhausting because the more unconventional it gets, there are zero opportunities. Like no one wants to listen because it's an experiment, right?
Yeah.
And I also understand why. But I feel as a musician, it's almost my responsibility to have such conversations because honestly, I feel music as a tool to bridge certain things. And this is exactly what we're doing now, to have those musical conversations, to create those. Because when we have a Band Cooum show, like that's 1 hour, we rehearse for like 5-6 days straight, like almost 5 hours a day. We perform 3 hour Carnatic concerts with not even like asking what the song list is. So
Right.
you can understand that it also comes with some amount of frustration, saying, okay, why am I working so hard for this? So that's the other side, but the answer is very clear. You're working hard because this is not usual.
Yeah.
And if at all you want to see the other side of the tunnel or do whatever, it is going to be dark. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be testing because it is an experiment. But one thing that both Shreya and I, because we kind of have these discussions a lot because we're at home and we're part of all the bands that we kind of that we are a part of, that it is very clear as to why we are doing a Band Cooum or a Carnatic Quartet or a Blue Trio or the Unreserved live project that I'm doing. So when we go back and look at that answer, it's just reaffirmed. We don't have to look at anything else. So I think that's each band has a reason, and I think the role of the Mridangam depends on that. For example, Sean Roldan and Friends is a Tamil original music band. We're not playing that many gigs right now because Sean is also busy with his films, and we all also have other bands. That band I didn't even play the Mridangam. I only played the cajon.
Okay.
Because that band kind of demanded only that. So also to be in that space of uh, kind of using whatever skill set is required and to kind of do the best in that is essential for you to be a multi-percussionist and a music producer, and not just say this is exactly what I can do.
Right. So, listening to you, Praveen, it's like, you're saying you really appreciate and value these conversations through music and with your collaborators, and trying out different things and sometimes not knowing what you're intending but figuring it out and rehearsing. There's so much that goes into all these collaborations. The other thing that you do, which is very intriguing but also extremely fascinating for me, is this, playing with everyday sound. You're constantly trying to connect the sound of the mridangam, which is, I suppose, your artistic core, with sounds around us in everyday life, and you're in a way trying to connect these with also experiences of everyday through those sounds, right? And your Unreserved album is an expression of that. So, what really prompted this line of inquiry or work for you?
Right. Unreserved has a backstory.
Okay.
It has like 2 or 3 reasons why I did Unreserved as a body of work. One is to ask, where does the Mridangam belong? Right. I think that's the age where I started asking myself where I belong. And I feel Mridangam is no different. I feel it's like my closest friend. So I was like, okay, I started visiting different countries, different places in Chennai, and then each place was very different. And then some places I felt at home, some places I was just like, oh, this is different. So then I was like, what is different? And then that kind of extended to the Mridangam, asking, Mridangam is very comfortable in the Sabha environment. I open my instrument and people are already like, oh, this is going to be such a nice whatever concert or whatever. There are some places where even I'm like really conscious about opening my instrument, thinking, oh, will I be judged? Whatever. So I think I was not brave enough to take my instrument and play it everywhere.
Okay.
I was brave enough to record all those sounds.
Right.
And at that point, I was also traveling quite a bit and I was also sampling a lot of sounds. For about 1.5 years, I sampled a lot of sounds from different places, starting from the streets of Chennai to different airports, railway stations, bus stops, uh, the mountains, and all these places, and just had it in my bank, saying it'll just say Chennai streets and it'll say busy day, like rainy day, and all of those things. I just
Okay.
had all these sounds recorded in high definition, and I just decided that, and I kind of created a digital canvas with it. At the moment I started listening to it, I thought there's just tremendous potential, be it rhythmically or harmonically, because I think the moment where it clicked was the unreserved track from Unreserved, which is basically a recording of the Egmore railway station. And then when I heard the hawkers, it was like if someone's selling biryani, like biryani, 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 and then that's the pitch they'll be selling it that entire day.
Right.
And then if someone's selling the water bottle, then it's like in a different note, and then it'll just be in that note. And then you have the ta na na, and then the
Yeah, the
railway
announcement.
announcement happens. So there's just so much of harmony that's happening there. Obviously, no one's thinking of okay sagapa and all. They're not thinking, but they're think. It's just like something that happens there. When you listen to it, you just have so many cues, musical cues. So I made kind of a digital canvas with all these sounds, and then I was just listening to it, and I was just really happy with that. And I was like, now I'm excited to introduce my language,
Right.
which is the Mridangam. So that's the reason why the Mridangam was introduced into Unreserved. So Unreserved is an individual, like kind of an independent idea where
Okay.
I was fascinated by sound and I created these samples. But the reason the Mridangam is there is because usually it's not there in such spaces, and it's kind of unconventional. That, and it's not even like in a funny context. So sometimes even in movies, Mridangam or Morsing is used in a funny context.
Yeah.
But this is a very serious experiment that I want to do, where how does the Mridangam feel when it's trying to have a serious conversation with sounds
Right.
there. So that's the other side of why Unreserved happened.
So, Praveen, on your Instagram page, there's this really fascinating video of you tapping the table tennis ball to beat, and you're simultaneously reciting konnakol or percussive syllables, and it looks effortless when you do it. So, I think some of us can't do even one, let alone do both, and together that too. So, it'll be wonderful if you can show our audience what you're doing with that idea actually and how it came about.
I'll tell you how it came about.
Yeah.
The first post, I mean, I've done like, I don't know, 6 videos maybe. The first video, it'll actually say how it came about. It won't have any description as to what I'm saying or what.
Okay.
So I have this one hard disk that takes a very long time to actually load, to show up.
Okay.
And then that is one inertia moment for me, like in the studio, because you can't go and work because you come to work on a project. That
Right.
project is stuck in that hard disk. And that is like, and you have to constantly look at the screen if
Right.
it's showing up. And it usually takes about 4 minutes. And that 4 minutes, you can't do anything else. You're just scrolling through Instagram, which is waste of time.
Yeah.
So I had my TT ping pong racket and like that ball, and it's just like tuck, tuck, tuck. And then I was doing this chorus, and it's like, okay, let's just record this. So that's literally how it started.
You were creatively restless or something.
Yeah, that 4 minutes, I mean, like, it's not about time. It's that you're waiting for that to load
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And it's like how sometimes when we finish sound check for a concert
Yeah.
and we've been asked to wait in the backstage. And sometimes it's like 1 hour, and that 1 hour is, I don't know, it's really testing. You don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah.
You can't practice. You don't want to like do anything else. You just like sitting down, and I've gotten tired by waiting. So it was born out of that moment.
Right.
Ta tikita kunta tikita kunta tikita kunta ti tang ta tikita kunta tikita kunta tikita kunta ti tang ta tikita kunta tikita kunta tikita kunta ta kita taka dina tang 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 ta tikita kunta tikita kunta tikita kunta di kita kunta di kita kunta di kita kunta tum ta tikita kunta tum ta tikita kunta tum ta tikita kunta tum ta tikita kunta.
Praveen, you've traveled widely. We saw that you've been to the US, Europe. But I was particularly intrigued by your visits to Israel and Palestine, especially given what's happening there. So, you are also an artist who's constantly trying to work with your own art, but trying to connect it with everyday life, lived realities, experiences, sounds. So I know that as artists it's very demanding, very hectic because you're traveling, recording, performing with different artists. So it's a little bit of, if I may say so, a little bubble, right? Because you are in that, you're preoccupied, and that's
Very much
how
so. You don't have to. Yeah, very much so.
it's creatively demanding in that sense. But artists are also part of the larger world, and our world that's fraught with wars, distress, injustices. So you've been to Palestine and these very historically significant places. How do these travels inform your work or shape you as an artist, these experiences? And do you think about, your art also in relation to where you are and what you're absorbing as a traveler, as an artist, and so on?
I think when it comes to this perspective in life, I must thank Sri T.M. Krishna for that, because I've also had the opportunity of musically, of course, collaborating with him when I was 16, which is again a very rare opportunity, and very gracious of him to. Because it's not just me, I know that he's always looking out for young musicians and also giving them the space to thrive. That is the musical side, but his own work and the journey that he's had so far has kind of informed me about society more, and his perspective might be I don't know, deeper, and because he's done so much work. But what I've understood is, as humans, we I mean, like, how much ever we like to think that we see everyone with, like, an equal footing, and everyone's equal, and how, this quote of Ramana Maharishi comes to my mind, where someone asks, how do you treat others, and he says, there are no others. Though we kind of romanticize about all these things, I don't think that's reality. Reality is very different, and reality is very, it's it's a clear pattern, and it doesn't matter the geography, or it doesn't matter if it's India or Chennai or this particular country is bad. Basically, there are problems in society, and I've gone through different phases. Obviously, when I was just concentrating in Carnatic music, I had no clue about society, and then I started listening to world music, and still I had no clue about society, because it was more about the musical collaborations, though I did listen to artists from different backgrounds. But then it went into, when traveling to, like, North Madras, and to work with Deepanana, who plays Parai beautifully.
And daddy, ஓகேவா? ஸோ ஸ்டார்டிங் வாசிக்கும் போது பொறுமையாக வாசிங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக ஸ்பீடு போயிடும்.
And to have conversations, and to go to Kasimid, and then understand what life is there. Then you understand, then you start seeing the whole world in the same way. It's just patterns that's repeating. In a room, if there are two people, one person is more powerful than the other person, and then you understand why does that happen. And it happens with gender, and it happens with everything in society. Then that phase was really testing for me, as I was not prepared for that, and I just, like, kind of dropped myself into that situation, and then it was really testing. But what I've understood, like, to answer your question as to how do I manage currently, is to strike a balance. If I'm just drowned in, say, the negativity that's around, then I won't have space to work on my craft. And at the end of the day, the reason why I'm trying to have this conversation is through my craft. So I need time to practice. At that point, I can't be thinking about the negativity. I need time to be creatively thriving with my craft. That is a different mindset. But I also need to have a real connection with society, because I think that's where even my creative, thriving space is created. It's um, kind of a symbiosis that you try to create. It's kind of difficult. I'm still trying to understand what's, like, the right proportion of you being in your bubble and working, because that bubble is necessary.
Indeed.
For the artist to really, like, if you thinking about math and, like, permutations and whatever it is, you don't want any other thoughts in your head. So I think it's that balance that kind of works for me right now. I can't be completely. That is one thing that I tried, because when I was drowned in negativity, I just tried to shut off for about 2 months, and I felt miserable for doing that, because that's not who I am. Then I had to, like, slowly open out and understand, okay, this is something that I can do. Let's do this. What's in your control? What change can you make?
Right.
And be very conscious of those changes, because the moment you take that out and you become a little numb, which is kind of comforting in your own world, um, it's very hard to go back there. So right now I'm just like having like an osmosis, if I
Okay.
can say. I think, yeah. But all these experiences are so important. I'm so grateful to get different perspectives. People have been kind to share their stories and why their stories are important or why their stories have to be heard. Like we spoke about something else in the beginning of the interview, where we need to hear certain voices more,
The
right? The
Mridangam
Mridangam
makers.
makers, it is important, and we know that it's important. And even if we don't make a big deal about that, we need to do something about it. Maybe we don't have to talk about it, but do something about it.
Right.
Is something that I'm working on.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And as you say, there's no one way or one right way to do any of this. It's
Yeah.
each of us explores the world around us and figures out how you want to fit in and in what way, right? And as you say, for you, the primary instrument is your mridangam, and conversations are through that. And when you say, it's the negativity that sometimes makes it hard for you to work, are you referring to the discomfort that you confront because of, how unequal our world is, or the differences, and is it that discomfort that you're referring to,
It's
or
basically, these are triggers, right? So sometimes it's just about reading something, and then it really affects you because you've heard a similar story, or you've heard a different situation where something like that happened. So it can be a story, like just something that you read, or it can be something where you've taken a stance and then it's also like directly like affecting you because you've taken the stance. And people, I mean, even I don't know where I stand, but people are too hard to too quick to
Yeah, yeah.
kind of put you in a box,
Yeah.
saying, oh, you've kind of said that, so you're this side or that side or whatever it is. That is sometimes draining to process. And the other thing, yeah, basically just triggers. And the more you read about gender or caste or any of these things, the immediate thing is to say, oh, but things have changed and there's so many other things happening and whatever it is. But it doesn't take away from the core fact sometimes. And then these incidents still happen.
Right.
And then when that happens and when you have the background information for that, you just feel sometimes helpless. Sometimes
Indeed, yeah.
I'm not the immediate kind to just go make a piece of art reflecting that. I don't think I can do that immediately.
Right, right.
Some people can. So I don't think I'm that kind of an artist. So it kind of affects me in a certain way. Then it comes back in my music in a different way, I think. So, but I think it's important to
Right.
go through that, even that negativity. You just have to have some balance, because your sanity is also very important.
Of course, it's
That's,
central to your.
yeah, I think that's also something that I told myself when I was just in that process of completely being surrounded by projects that associated with this, and then just hearing those stories and whatever. I said, like, I understand all of this, but even for me to do something about it, I need to be sane. So I need to be sane and also able and strong, and that requires some kind of uh, musical training, some kind of health, and
Yeah.
your mental health, and all of those things. So I think that balance. So I make it a point that I do some physical activity. I make it a point to get some sleep. I practice my instrument every day, and then everything comes. So this is like basic. It's like brushing my teeth, and
Yeah.
will you not brush your teeth? Like, you have to. So I have a absolutely non-negotiable list that I do every day, which, and musical training is part of that. And then these are things that kind of I kind of absorb, and then, yeah, I let it kind of seep through.
No, that's very honest and very also realistic. It's
Yeah.
life happens that way. There's no, as I said, one way. And artists also, you don't have a very fixed routine even otherwise, right? It's not like a rigid schedule, and each day is different. You're in a different city, you're waking up somewhere, you're sleeping somewhere else, and it's hard. It's life is hard, and to figure out in each person's own way and pace is, I suppose, very understandable. You must also be getting ready for the December Music Festival. You play for so many artists. But are there other things you're working on that are coming up in the following year, and what are the new projects or experiments that you've lined up for yourself?
Before the season, we do have a lot of experimental fusion shows happening.
Okay.
And of course, season is season, and I'm already thinking, because again, that's the thing about how you prepare for something, right? So when it comes to the December season, I'm thinking of numbers, I'm thinking of my instruments. I've already started checking all my instruments.
Right.
Though it's December, I want, so like I said, it's a very intricate process to tune your instrument. And then even after doing that, with lights and so many different things that can change. So it's almost like you're checking every day.
Yeah.
So I do that to make sure that my instrument is sorted, which means 60% of my job is sorted. So
Okay.
technically, the Mridangam maker is 60%, my journey. So that is something that I prepare, and to run the numbers in my head, just to be very sharp. And because we play every day and sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
So at that point, you don't want your motor to be running like over speed and heat up. So you kind of are prepared generally. So season is that, and also to be physically ready, because
Right.
it is also demanding physically.
Yeah, very draining, right?
Yeah, and you don't have a holiday. Imagine starting from almost the 20th of November until the 10th of January.
Playing every day, twice some days, and with so many different instruments to match the different artists you're playing, right?
So
Yeah.
it is exciting, and I think I also get to learn a lot, and that's what I'm looking. If you really ask me what I'm looking forward to, it's that, like how I've worked on my craft a little bit, and I'm excited about showing certain things and exhibiting certain things. I'm sure the vocal artists and the
Right.
violinists will also like work, and then when they show that, I'll have so much to latch on to and
Right.
learn. So I think if you really think of why I like being a musician, it's to play with other musicians. I think I feed off that energy very well,
Right.
and I really enjoy that. So I think that's about the season.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Praveen. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and really learnt a lot about your craft, your journey as an artist, but also how you navigate your different worlds in art and in society. Thank you so much for being very open and sharing your ideas with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Truly enjoyed going through that and answering those questions.